Well, hello and happy Friday. This is Friday for me. This is the month of October in 2025, and I have really been having fun with just some small projects this month, and I don't have any big quilts going right now or any big projects, and so each day I've been kind of playing around and working up some little small projects, and my last video was the little Halloween bunting or garland, whichever you'd like to call it. So I hope you'll, if you haven't seen it, I hope you'll go check that out. And today I'm making these cute little shelf sitter chickens. Here's the little chicken. She's got some feet and legs, and she'll sit really well on a shelf, and her little legs will kind of dangle. And I've used black beads for her eyes, and I used a combination of polyfill and those plastic beads for doll bodies on the inside, and felt, or this is actually a very tightly woven fleece. I grabbed it because I like the color, but it won't fray, and it'll be just fine. And so, I watched, I saw this on Pinterest, and I've watched a couple videos that some other YouTubers have made making these little chickens, and some of them used a 5x5 square, some used 4x4. I looked at the 4x4 and thought that it was a little too small for me, what I would like. So I'll show you what I've done. Set my little Chickie here. She can watch over us while we work. So I just have, this is a 6x6 OmniGrid ruler, and I just cut out two pieces of coordinating fabric that were 5x5. I just cut out two pieces. That's all you need. And I just took a piece of cardstock and I laid this down on it, and you can see here that I practiced a little bit. See, I've got some here and here, just different sizes that I tried, and I just laid the fabric on here and took a pencil and just drew a little comb and a beak and a little wattle, and I've cut those out of the cardstock, and a foot. I forgot the foot. She has to have feet. So here are my little cardstock patterns for the comb and the beak, little tiny beak, and her little wattle. And I just put that down on my fabric, and I used a heat sensitive friction pen, drew around them, and I've got plenty on there for a seam allowance, and cut them out. I used my Karen K. Buckley scissors so that I could get a nice accurate cut on the little parts of her face. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this together and sew this up. So the wattle, or I mean the comb, sorry, I do know chicken parts. This is the comb, and I've got a larger, a medium, and a small little part to it. And the large one goes toward the corner. So let me see if I can bring you in just a little bit and maybe you can see a little better. So here's the corner where I'm going to put the face. So I'm going to keep away from the corner because I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. So I'm going to come back just a little bit from the corner, and it can't, it can't go this way or it won't work. It has to go this way so that when you turn your little chicken right side out, it'll be in the right place. And this is the beak, and this side's pretty pointed right here, and this side's pretty pointed, and this one's more rounded. So this is the outside of the beak. So I'm going to put it this way and down away from the corner, not in where I'm going to turn when I sew this up. And here's the little wattle, and you want to make sure it goes down. So it's got to go this way. So it'll have to go down like so. And so I'm going to just sort of audition it on there and then just turn it over. And it goes right below the beak. And so there we have those placed. Then you take your second 5x5. Boy, wouldn't this be fun to do with Charm Pack? 5x5 squares. Oh my gosh. You can make chickens all day long. I'm going to go in here and clip this. I don't want my little pieces to move, so I'll clip them. Make sure everybody stays put. There we go. And let's see, I might put a clip over here too, just for fun. So now you have to think of this like this is the top. Here's the face, This is the top. This is the bottom. You got to leave the bottom open. You can't. So if you're afraid you'll forget when you're sewing along, just clip something, clip a little bit of this up or something, and that way you won't make a mistake and sew in the wrong place. So we're going to sew 3 sides, and they have to be the right 3 sides. So top, bottom. So we're going to sew up to the top, across the top, and back down to the bottom. So we'll go do that. I'm using a 34D foot. And my dual feet, of course, since it's a D foot. And I'm going to back stitch a little bit. There we go. When I get up here to the corner, I'll just pivot and turn. And there we go, right on budget. And I have found that it's really helpful to use a stiletto on these little chickens, just at a couple of different places. One when we're doing this part, and one when I'm sewing across the bottom to close the whole thing up after I get it stuffed. It's a little bit of a trick to get it under the needle, but if you use a stiletto on the last part where you're sewing the last seam, closing the bottom, it's a big help. Okay. Alrighty. Now, don't trim any corners. Really important, don't trim any corners. Okay, let's go back over to work surface and we'll turn this and see how we did. Alrighty, so let's turn this right side out. These little chickens are so much fun to make. And if you fold this over and kind of grab it with your thumb, that really helps get, I don't want you to trim these corners because they need the stability of the extra fabric in there. But if you turn that over, you'll get a nice square corner. And I'm going to use my little, what is this? Oxmoor House point turner. I knew it was called a point turner, but I thought I'd better tell you what the company was. But you can find these anywhere. I wouldn't advise using the point of your scissors. I can't even talk today. It's a good thing I'm just doing crafty stuff, huh? Not anything real involved. I do have a great big beef roast in the crock pot with potatoes, and I've got the rest of the soup stuff going on the stove top for a stew. I hope I haven't messed that up. Oh. No telling. Okay, so there we've got some pretty nice points. I might play with this one just a hair more. Or what is this? A chicken, I should say, just a feather more. Okie dokie. So I kind of like to look at it when it's laying flat like this. And I take my pen, my friction pen, and I kind of put where I want the eye, because it's a little difficult to tell when it's stuffed where it would look the best, and you kind of want it kind of midway between the beak and the comb in there. And you know, if at any time you see anything that you think might need trimmed a little bit, you can give it a little haircut and round it out a little more if you want to. That kind of thing. Okay, now I'm going to grab some polyfill. And this is just regular silky soft, it's called silky soft polyfill. And I'll just put that in here and get that all tucked in. I like to get it right up in the corners to start with. And just keep pushing it in. There we go. I keep trying to stay in camera. I'm a terrible YouTuber. I have trouble staying in camera and in the view thing, and I'm just a farmer's wife who loves to share, and that's about the size of it. So I'm making kind of a little well down in here. So it looks like that. A little well down in there. And I'm going to put some beads down in there and fill that up. So get my beads. Okay, this is just a little Anchor Hawking measuring glass that I use sometimes cooking. And it's just the right size. And these are poly pellets. They're called poly pellets. There you go. And I got these at Joann's a long time ago, but I'm sure that you can get these little pellets anywhere. And I'm just going to put them in this little glass container so that I can control them a little better. And I'm telling you, there's no way to do this without dropping a couple. Whoop! Or 3. Or 4. There we go. I'll just put them there. Okay, so here's my little well in there, and I'm just going to pour some beads in, and you've got to kind of settle them in there, and I just use an ink pen, my friction pen for that. Just settle them all down in, and look how much went in there. So I'll put a little more. And you can't put too much. It's lots easier to put it in than it is to remove these beads if you get too many. So, let's see here. I don't know, might be able to get just a little bit more in there. Okay, now, here's the trick. Here's your chicken's face and comb. And here's the square. Now you're going to take these 2 seams and bring them together and turn them under just a little bit. I'm going to turn them under about 1/4 of an inch and bring them together. Like that. Just like this. Clip it good. And this part of your chicken now, it should cooperate pretty good because you have to keep your beads under control. And you don't want them to get up in the seam allowance where you might happen to catch one with your needle when you're sewing. That's not good. It wouldn't be good. I haven't done it, but I can imagine what it would be like if you did. There we go. There. Just give everything a little bit of a little encouragement to fold and go down in there. There we go. You kind of got that situated. So now with these little feet and legs, you know, there is a right way and a wrong way for these legs. This is the back of the foot and this is the front of the foot. So you want to have them so they hang the right way. Otherwise you'll have a poor little chicken that his feet are not right. And I've been putting the cording, I put it about 1 inch over and about, probably 3/4 of an inch in to the chicken. So I am going to make myself a little mark right here, and that's where I want one, and about 1 inch over, and that's where I want the other one. Okay, so we'll just take them and put them in just like this so that we don't turn the foot the wrong way. And just double check, make sure the little guy's going the right way, and put the clip back. And this one, I kind of got my finger at the about 3/4 mark so that I can kind of tell how far I've got it up in there into the body of that chicken. And you know, this is kind of a folk artsy little thing, so it's not absolutely imperative that you are precise on 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch or whatever. But anyhow, there the little person, the little chicken is. He's looking a lot more like a chicken. And on these feet things, I cut this string. This is cording, just cotton cording. I believe it's 1/4 of an inch, and I got this online, probably from Amazon. I think I cut them 6 or 7 inches, so I had enough room to tie a knot on the bottom. And then I did put a little bit of beacon, 3-in-1, on here to hold this. And you snip just a little hole in the middle of the foot. And you can kind of see that there, that I've done that. And thread the cording up through and put a little bit of glue so that your little foot doesn't get pulled off by accident by your cat or whatever. So now all that's left is to stitch across here and put her little eyes on. And I'll show you how I'm going to do the eyes. These are just a string of black beads. I don't even know where I got them. Probably Hobby Lobby. And I was going to look and see if there's some sort of measurement on here. 61, no, that's not right. But they're glass and they're 4mm round. There we go. Glass beads. And I just need 2. And there they are. And I'm going to use them for the eyes. You could use embroidery floss. You could use buttons. There's all kinds of things you could use for the eyes. So I'm going to come, I've got a knot in here, and this is double. So I'm going to come down here a ways. Come out where I want my bead to be. And I'm going to give it a little tug. Okay. Put my bead on here. There we go. And I'm going to go straight through to my other mark on the other side. There you go. You can kind of see that. Put the other eye on. And you don't have to pull them real tight. They'll kind of indent a little bit anyway. There's our eyes. And I've gone through the ones that I made. I went through the beads twice because I thought once didn't feel like it would hold them the very best. So then I'm going to wrap my thread 3 times around my needle. 1, if I got enough room. 1, 2, 3, and pull that through. Now I've got another knot right here, and I'm going to go back in and down and come out over here somewhere, and I'll pull that knot in. There we go. And then I'll trim this. So now we have her eyes on, and now I'll show you how to sew across this bottom. Okay, this is not the easiest part of this thing, but you can do it. So I'm just going to start over here on the end, and as I said before, it's really helpful to use a stiletto. So I am going to start here on the end, and I'm going to backstitch, and I'm using about 1/8, maybe, inch seam allowance, not hardly any. And I'm holding my little chicken over so that, because she doesn't want to fit under here, so I'm holding her down. She's not making much of a fuss. Okay, so I have a bead right here that migrated over, so I'm just going to scooch him back. Okay, there we go. You can kind of feel those beads through the fabric with your fingers and with your stiletto. Okay, we're just nigh on being done here. There we go. Okay, let's go run back over to the work surface and have a look at these little chickens. I'm just going to trim my threads here. Make sure everything looks nice and neat. All right, and there's my chickens. My cute little chickies. And they're pretty cute. So I hope you'll try them. I'll trace these off for you and put some notes on how to make them and make the chickens in the description box so that you can have this. These would be for the 5-inch squares though. So if you're going to make your chicken a little smaller or a little larger, you'd just get you some paper and draw out a little country looking chicken face, beak and feet and that, and you'll be all set. So I hope you enjoyed this fun little video, and pray you're having a good day. I'll see you next time. Bye.